I'm going to go long here, and I want to see these buy stops taken out. And I had my limit order at 45 and a quarter initially. And it's a real world thing like anybody else. And you're going to have stresses in your life. And having lots of money doesn't remove stress. It doesn't remove that shit. These guys sit around like a bunch of nerds, okay? Like they're trading Pokemon fucking cards. This is money. We're talking about money. I'm not here for friends. I don't give a fuck if you like my trades. I don't care if you love my trades. I'm here to make money. I'm here to teach you how I make money. If you don't like that, then go somewhere else. Play fucking Pokemon in Discord. I don't give a shit. But here, if you're trading with a losing trade, the next trade, you're half the leverage. Make half that losing trade that you took 1% loss on, make that back. As soon as you do that, that's a reset. Now you can go back to trading with 1% risk again. But wait a minute, Michael, I'm in drawdown still a 0.5%. Right. Yep. That's what I do. That's what I do. Now, what happens if you lose again? You drop your risk in half again, and you trade until you get half of that losing trade back. And then you close the trade. That frees you up to go back to what? 1% or a 0.5%. Once you get down to a 0.25%, there's really nothing, in my opinion, it's worth taking. But what that does, it causes your drawdowns to be less and less and less, and it allows you to reset emotionally and psychologically because it takes the sting away. If you're wrong, if you're impulsive, if you rush back in to try to do something, it is a fail switch because you will, if you don't do these things, you will, if you just go in there and say, okay, I don't care, and you get that gambler numbness. Anybody that's ever played cards or went to a casino, you're up, you made money, you've had an experience like that. You go home, they send you comps. Come on back. We love you. You took money from us. We love you as a customer. Come back here and stay in one of our really luxurious suites and fuck, we'll give you a steak dinner and here's 2 tickets to a show. Come on back. Have the whole weekend to yourself because you are a customer that we love. And your dumbass believes that. So you fly out there, you go out there and then more. What at the table? You know damn well you shouldn't have came back out there. Two, you shouldn't have stayed as long as you did. And you knew right when you should have stopped, but you don't. And you lose. And you lose again. And then you lose again. And all of a sudden you think to yourself, well, fuck it. I got $1,000 still in chips here. I'm just going to play until I fucking lose. I don't care. That's gambler numbness. That's what trading sometimes does or occurs to people that just cannot stay focused. And what happens is you're just waiting for that chance turnaround. And when it does, few and far between, there's an instance where that occurs. But when it happens, what that does is it gives you that little bit of dopamine. Boom. All of a sudden, oh shit. Look out, ladies. Holy shit. Look who just stepped in. It's Money Man. It's Mr. Maven. It's fucking Mr. Market Maker, ICTs. Nobody compared to you now. You got it all figured out because that chemical imbalances kicks in, and everybody has this. You don't have to be bipolar to experience this. That feeling of I'm on now. I'm on. But it doesn't happen. But if it does happen, that's when you start betting bigger because you think you've turned the tide. And now the gods of the odds have now shined their light on you and given you their favor. And the only thing they've given you is a shift in your perspective. Because see, what you think is good is just really their boot going up your ass. You have no idea what's about to happen to you. And then boom, your $1,000 is gone. And on the flight home from the casino, and you've lost more than you brought because you couldn't take that. You had to go and get more money out of your ATM and more money out of your ATM. Because hey, it's still Saturday night and you got another night to sleep up there for free, right? And you fly home with less money than you had before you went out there and won by luck. See, all these things, these take place all the time, every single day. And it took place a lot, I guarantee you, in so many people's minds today. If they have somehow dodged that big drop in the morning, they were in there playing around. They were in there trying to do something they're not equipped to do. And they can't manage themselves. They can't manage their emotions. They can't manage their psychology. And I know enough about myself to know that I would have done more than I should have today. And it probably wouldn't have been as good as I would have wanted it to be because I went in with the wrong expectations. I'm going to come in there, Mr. Market Maven. And that volatility today said, sit the fuck down, boy. You ain't ready. You ain't ready for this. Sit down. Just shut your fucking mouth. You just sit right there and you just watch and be thankful you're not in here from that. And I came back later on and I saw that it had completely went right back up, closed in the gap, the liquidity void, used as support, as I mentioned, and then vaulted above the high and then just kept digging in higher. So to me, I think that anyone listening to what Corbs shares with his, I know he's been trading for a while. I think he's mentioned he's been doing it for a few years, but I think he's really at a stage where he's really now taking it serious in terms of his development. Because I asked him, I said, the things he's enduring right now are many times the barrier that prevents that very thing. And most people can't get through it. They can't press through it. And what I talked about in this Twitter space here in terms of managing your risk, dropping it down and make half of the previous loss back, then reset to what the previous loss leverage was. That gives you that little bit of a cookie, which is what we need. Okay. As humans, we need that little reward, that little nudge that we're doing it right, that cookie, that attaboy, that pat on the shoulder. Okay. And like in karate and martial arts, okay, all these fucking belt colors and shit. Why? Because they got to keep you paying. They got to keep you feeling like you're rewarded. Okay. And most real martial arts didn't have all that shit. That's an Americanized thing. They bastardized the entire martial arts by having these belt systems. And in trading, you have to have that Miyagi experience. Okay. You have to have that where, you're working your ass off. You're out there, you're sanding the fence and you're painting the fence. You're waxing the cars. ICT's talking to you and putting you through all this bullshit discussions. This doesn't mean anything to me. Tell me how to buy and sell. Tell me when to get in, when to get out. How the fuck do I know how to do this? You're talking all this bullshit. You're talking about a house I can't live in. What the fuck's this got to do with anything? It has everything to do with it. So you don't think you're learning anything right now, but when you put yourself in that situation, now because I'm talking to you like this, you're going to say, you know what? This is exactly like that motherfucker said. That old motherfucker, 50 years old, had a clue. He did know what he was talking about. He knew exactly what he's talking about because I'm feeling that shit right now. I feel like I need to get out there and break somebody's fucking head in this market because I have something to prove. I got a chip on my shoulder. I have, a reason to be violent in these marketplaces. And bringing violence to the market, well, you're just asking for your ass to get beat because believe me, the gang in the market is always going to outnumber you. It's always going to outnumber you when you go in like a vigilante. If you go in there with that vigilante mindset, you're going to be the Punisher. No, you're going to go home in a fucking ambulance. Okay, that's the way it's going to happen. You're going to lose your ass going in there like that because you're trying to do something with an outcome in mind that's not guaranteed. And you're blinded by your rage or your fit. Okay, you're all pent up like I was. I have been. You see how quiet I've been recently on Twitter? Like somebody the other day said, your music selection. What the fuck's going on with this? I played that beautiful song that it's a female artist, and it's a very moving song to me. I loved it, and I was in my feels that day. I was thinking to myself, what if I don't get this house? And what if I don't get this house? Number one, my wife's going to be upset because she loves this house. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the house. I think it's a beautiful home. It's, you know, there's certain things I wanted, and there isn't that in this property. But my wife, when we went through it, she was like, Michael, please, please, can I have this? I was like, "Ugh, guys, what do you do in that situation? You can't win that. You can't fucking win that." So I was like, okay, well, let's see if, we can work it out. So I offered them 1.8 million. Of course, they rejected that, and I came up to 1925, which is what they allowed for the other offer, but didn't give them a contract. Like they didn't sign a contract, but they were going to accept his 1925 if they offer, but they didn't do it. But I came in with 1975 because I asked them. I said, listen, I'm all cash, no contingencies. Like I will buy this house, no waiting. Like I own real estate. I don't need to sell shit. I'm buying outright. You tell me what your lowest that you're taking right now, and nobody else can take any of your attention away. Like I'm going to be the one. They said 1975, and the house will be yours. So I said, okay. And in an hour, we had the offer in their hands, and they signed it. Okay. And then this asshole comes and does all that. So since like the first week of September, I have been in my personal life. I've been very, very in my personal life. I've been very, very hard to deal with personally if you were around me. I've been very short. My wife has been careful to be around me. My children have been very careful. I had any kind of real interactions with anyone else. And that kind of mindset, partially, that partially, partially is what motivated me to do what you've seen recently, where you saw me doing like $13,000 trades. That was me in there doing a little bit more than I usually do, because obviously I've been teaching you to do these models that are, try to get 5 handles and be fine. You're all asking like, can you just show the model? Can you do that? I just feel like I got to do more, and that's why I was doing that. But today I was really going in there with kind of like a gladiator mindset, and because I'm imbalanced over all the bullshit, I wanted to release. Okay, I wanted to release. I wanted to be able to discharge. I haven't been able to talk to anybody because it would have been, it wouldn't have been as therapeutic as this one feels for me. And I understand some of you that haven't been trading long enough. None of this probably makes any sense to you. And maybe they've probably turned the Twitter space off. But I promise you, okay, Mark Douglas doesn't touch anything like this in his book. Okay. It's not a popular way of discussing human frailty. And I'm a human, and I have a lot of frailty because I'm imbalanced. And I feel, well, I can feel elated 1 second, and then I can feel rage. Elated 1 second, and then I can feel rage within 30 seconds. And sometimes I can feel myself swinging chemically back and forth, all within a 5-minute period. And that volatile state of mind where I wish I could articulate what that feels like. It's a miserable experience. And that's what my life has been. Like I have lived with this, and it's very, very hard to deal with. And sometimes I foolishly, in my manic episodes, and sometimes I've gone into the marketplace trading where I was euphoric. And both of those times I have had dismal results of being in that market experience. Whereas if I am trying to, like, that's why I meditate. Okay. I meditate, I exercise, I lift weights, I do stretching, I do all those things because if you look at the schedule I tweeted and the things I do and how I eat and all that stuff, I have to adhere to that schedule. If I don't adhere to that schedule, I cannot do well in the marketplace because If I'm in a trade, I'm going to think about how I did not do this part of my routine. Something took me out of my routine. And because that happens, many times that'll be the reason or catalyst for me not to take any trades in the morning session or in the afternoon session. Not because I don't see a trade, not because my methods don't have something that would give me something to work with. Okay. I could sit down in front of any market day, and do something. Like, for instance, Wednesday, that was a range bound day. I sat there and I literally, in a demo, I didn't do anything with live. I didn't do anything with my live account, nothing. But in a demo, I ran up $17,000 on a demo just using 4 contracts, banging around inside that range. And I had 2 trades that stopped out where it was like, just a little bit above what would be, I guess, commission costs. But that's it. Now, I know I can do these things, but here's the thing. As nimble as you see me doing what I show you, on days when I can't control myself, the man part of me, the physical person of me, not the trader ICT, the Michael, the imbalanced Michael, okay? The guy that I have to be very careful with, because if I let this motherfucker do what he wants to do, I'm going to wreck myself and ruin my entire livelihood. Everything would be ruined, because a day like today would cause me to do something that I would punish myself. I would punish myself for years, knowing damn well I should have never done it. But I started the day with that in mind. And with grace, I saw that, you know what? Yeah, it's enough. I don't need another reminder. Thank you, Lord. I'm done. I know because of experience. When I tell you, somebody asked me today, do you think I should put a short order in at 35.70 if it comes back up to that? I said, no, I wouldn't touch it today. Because immediately when I looked at that tweet, my mindset was, okay, they're asking me that. And please, if you're the person that tweeted this, what I'm about to say, don't take this personal. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just being honest. When I read that tweet, I said, okay, I'm going in. I'm looking for a fair value gap. I'm going to buy a pullback towards 35.70. I'm going to go in. I'm going to go long. But I didn't have the charts open. I just saw the tweet. I said, no, I wouldn't touch it. Wait till tomorrow. I was telling the person to don't do anything, but really what I was doing was telling Michael, stay the fuck out of this. Stay the fuck out of there. Don't do nothing with this. That's why I had to walk away, because it was almost like, okay, someone said this, so therefore I'm going to go and I'm going to do the opposite. And when I was a younger man and we were on America Online, which was obviously like the social media, Twitter space, type thing back then. And whenever I would see other people's opinion, because let's be honest, everybody out there pretty much doesn't know shit about trading. And just look at today as an example. Like, they're all trying to figure out what's going on. We all were expecting the daily low to be taken out. We wanted 35.70. Okay. We knew that was coming. Well, everyone that was listening in our community, we were expecting that. We were not trying to buy anything. We didn't look for any kind of reversal type thing prior to 35.70. 35.70, that's where it's going to draw to. We got that today. You also know, before the big drops, to take out that objective, chances are it's going to do what? It's going to go for liquidity. What kind of liquidity? If 35.70 is below the market, that means we're going to take out buy side first. What I was looking for, I actually showed the example where I was in, I took the long, I took the exit, and I have students that actually marked it up before I even shared all that stuff. They have it marked out saying, this is what I think is going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. And they see it. They know what they're looking for. So that means they understand what I've taught them. But then we see all these other people out there that supposedly are market professionals, talking heads. They're on CNBC and all these other people. Oh, what's going on? They're talking about how this was one of the greatest days for the S&P. What? Look, okay. I understand they have to sell this stuff to keep people wanting to invest because it's a buyer's market. Okay. I understand that. But we don't look at things like that. Like I don't want to go out and try to pick a bottom. Okay. I'm not going to go out there and say, yeah, the bottom's in. I'm not convinced of that just because we had this happen today. All I see is the market go up into a daily fair value gap. All I see is normal business model where relative equal lows on a daily chart after the market's been going down for a long time. We've gone down about 50% of what the previous bull run has been. 50%. It's reasonable to see something like this happen. And it's also reasonable for them to come back and rail against anybody that's been short. Because I believe until I'm proven wrong, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, I don't care. But I really want you to think about this. Okay. And my students that were in my private mentorship know what I'm going to say here because they were hearing about this back before all this shit really started happening. Are about to take place. I've mentioned to you in previous Twitter spaces. And some of you are unnerved and you're scared. Okay. I want you to understand when I talk to you about this, it's not to scare you. I'm not sensationalizing anything. Okay. I want you to understand that the general media isn't going to communicate these things to you until it's already too late. In America, our news is filtered greatly, and you're not going to get the perspective that's really going on in ground zero in these other countries where things are happening. And I've been about 9 to 12 months ahead of everybody in everything. And that's not bragging. I need to be ahead of everyone else because I don't want to fall victim to these types of things. And I had students literally tell me to go fuck myself, that I was insane. Okay, I'm nuts. And they wanted a refund just on the basis of the things I told you that you're seeing happen right the fuck now. And I said, first of all, you're not getting a refund. You just sit back and you watch what's going to happen. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to go over on Twitter and I'm going to show the whole world that are outside here what you've been experiencing. But you get caught up in me talking about things that are outside the marketplace because it hasn't happened in your neck of the woods yet. You're this and you're that. No, man, just take a look around. I would love to be wrong. I want to be wrong for the sake of my own family and friends. The stress this is going to bring on them. I hope I am wrong. But look around, man. Things are going to get really, really hard. I sat down and I sat down with the Lord. And okay, and I know some of you don't believe in this. Okay, some of you believe in Allah, some of you believe in other things that in other religions. Okay, I'm not going to knock your religion. I'm not going to say anything about you. I'm not going to tweet to you and say, you don't know the real Lord or you don't know the real Creator. So please don't do that to me. Okay, because I'm not going to listen to you. And what's going to happen is I'm going to mute you. I won't delete you, but I'm going to mute you because that's offensive to me, and I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone else. But this is what I did. Okay, I sat down. I said, Lord, how can I be used to be as much help as I possibly can to other people? Because I know what's coming. I knew in 2010. When I stepped out on Baby Pips, I wanted to let the cat out of the bag then, but I was afraid to talk about it. And I ain't ashamed to tell you that. I was afraid to talk about it. Not because people would laugh at me, because you can see I don't care about that shit. But I was afraid if I talked about it, what might happen. And I have old friends that like to visit once in a while, and they talk to me and tell me there's certain things I shouldn't talk about, and I don't. But I tried to be a little bit cryptic, and people that have been watching me over the years, they have been really close many times, to where I was pointing in 2016 election. At that point, it was like I needed to talk about it. And I said everything. I said Trump would be elected. Everybody laughed. I said they're going to use him as a fall guy. It's happening. And he's part of it all too. So I know that probably throws you into a different category because some of you are like, yeah, he's a Trumper. I'm not a Trumper. I didn't vote for anybody. And it's just, they're all part of the same thing. It's all theater. Okay. But the things that are coming, I talked about all the central bank digital currencies. Okay. And they have to create this reason for it. Okay. Because most people don't even understand what that is, number one. And that's the reason why the whole crypto thing was invented. They let you all champion the idea of, oh, we're going to beat fiat currency. Bitcoin is now the equivalent of fiat. And I know this blew your fucking minds and you all want to kill me and pitchforks and shit's going to Twitter feed because of it. Just settle down and listen to me, okay? The whole blockchain was started for the very purpose of central bank digital currencies. Not for Bitcoin champions, not for heroes that are trying to be mavericks out there and beat fiat. Listen, folks. Remember Gaddafi? Remember how he wanted to start his own currency? He wanted to do his own thing that was gold backed to him. Mm-hmm. And they didn't hide it. They televised that. These banks, okay, everybody out there with the militia mindset, oh, we need a 1776, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You're not doing shit. You're not doing shit. You can't beat it, okay? So the only thing you can do is try to align yourself with what they're doing. Now, that poses a great deal of a moral dilemma for those folks out there that have a sense of humanity. Yes, the very concept of what central banking is very, very evil. But when I was a younger man and I was introduced to all this, I wasn't wanting to be a part of it at all. Like I wanted to stop trading altogether because once I discovered what is really going on behind the scenes, I did not want to be part of that at all. Lots of money offered, lots of doing this and lots of doing that. And no, it's a club that then you won't stay long enough to find out what really works in these marketplaces. And if you don't see that, you'll fall victim to whatever they're trying to sell or get your attention and get your money. I made millions of dollars selling my material, my teaching, my mentorship. Okay. And I have a group of people that are in a private group that are waiting for me to return when I'm done doing this core content. And I am coming back home. I'm going back to private when I'm done. I will not be tickling your Twitter. I'm going back to my private forum. And that's where I'm going to be. Now I'll do videos on YouTube, but I asked in prayer, I said, yeah, how can I do this? And he gave me basically the inspiration to do what I've done all this year. Now, there's a few times I was wanting to do things from the man, the Michael, the humanity in me, the guy that gets mad, the guy that gets angry, the guy that wants a little, hair of the dog to bit him. And I was just told, just keep doing what you're doing. So I just stuck to what I was doing, something that even my private mentorship wasn't given. And I showed you from my heart, because it was exactly what I designed for my daughter. Many of you are seeing people all around the world making real money with that. So if there's ever been a doubt whether what I teach or what I know, am I really that accurate? Can I really talk about where the market's going to be going forward? Am I doing both sides of the marketplace, up or down? And then I'm picking the right. You all seen it now. You all tasted it. So I believe that I have done what I set out to do last year where I told you, just sit back and watch what I do. I'm going to give you a means of making money. It won't cost you anything. I'll make it as easy as I humanly possibly can do it. There really is no other way simpler. If you're going to be using anything algorithmic, if you're going to be doing anything with how these markets book, that 2022 mentorship model is it. There isn't going to be somebody out there that's saying, here's a 5-minute version of the ICT. Fuck all that. Okay. There's a couple guys out there trying to run their channels like this. Okay. And I get it. There's an audience. They want that fast buck. They want that fast, give me a real quick, short little 5-minute trainer. Fuck all that. You're never going to do that. You're never going to understand what you're doing. So you're getting your clicks and you're getting your little ad revenue on that shit. But they're going to tell you later on, this shit didn't work. I'm going over here where I get the real juice. And I'm not taking the videos off of YouTube. They're there so that way people that try to sell my shit or rename it or whatever, they're going to see, oh, this is where it really came from. And my last video for mentorship will be a sit down face to face. You'll see me. And I'm going to explain why I did it. And I'm going to explain why I insist on having credit, because it's not about ego. And you'll hear right from my own mouth, right from my own face, and there is no filters. You're going to understand why I live my life the way I do. I'm human, and sometimes I cuss like a sailor. And I wish I could change that about myself. I wish I could do that 24/7. You know, when I'm praising the Lord, it's interesting how I don't reach for those words. He tames the tongue in those moments. But when I'm not talking about him, it's very easy for me to reach for the colorful language. So I'm not preaching to you. I'm not trying to bring you to church or anything, but I'm just pulling the veil back and letting you know there's a lot of things that go on that you don't really fully understand that I contend with. And I'm many times convicted. Every single time I do one of these where I'm talking to you live, I'm immediately convicted. I'm immediately asking for forgiveness because I'm not being a good role model for you. But I use these instances to discharge. It's a confessional. It's a way for me to vent. And I got to be honest with you. Some of these are not liked by a lot of you because you don't find any real value. And most of the time, you know, it's just entertainment for the other folks. Like, you know, I love Ratchet ICT. It's not, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be, but it's unfortunate that I have to manage these feelings, these emotions, these chemicals, and I let them burn off. And once it happens, it gives me the ability to be around my family and to be around myself and not have 1,000 things rushing to the front of my mind. It needs my attention right now. And all of them are life like threatening. They're all emergencies when they're not. Not one of them is an emergency, but that's what it feels like living with this. See someone else living with it. And I deal with them differently. I deal with them differently because I know they can't control it. Once I rev up, whether it be the good side or the bad side, no one's talking me down. And that's why I get offended when someone says in tweets like, hey, look, you know, take it easy. Don't worry about them. When you start mothering me, okay, or playing my father, I get offended by that. And that just makes it worse. So those individuals I usually mute. You don't know if I've done that. You keep seeing all my tweets, but I don't want them to do that again because I'll respond to them. I'll remember their name. I'll say, look, you know, hey, and I've done this already before. And I've broomed people off my Twitter. And who cares, right? Big deal. ICT got caught up in his fields and he blocked me. If I don't do that, I'm going to say things that aren't going to be really edifying as a mentor to that person, where I could just simply say, hey, look, you know, if I was more balanced at that moment, I could say, hey, you know, maybe you should look at it like this or do something like that. But most of the time, sometimes I get triggered and once it starts revving up, I can't be the right kind of mentor for anyone. And for the last 2 weeks, that's how it's been. Like it's been really, really hard for me to keep things in check because of all the things that's going on. And I'm thankful that my wife's going to be able to get this house, and that way, happy wife, happy life. But these instances are going to creep into your own trading too. Maybe you don't have bipolarism. Maybe you don't have that issue. But everybody has a bad day once in a while. And I don't care how healthy you are, your job, you may love it. You may be making, a high salary. They give you great benefits and you're interested in never really leaving it because you love your job. It's your profession. I got students that are like that. They have no interest. I don't care how much they make. I think that'll change when they get really up there in returns. But they say that I don't want to leave my job. I'm going to stay with this, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. Those individuals still have bad days. If you're married or if you have a relationship, let me tell you something. You're going to have a bad day. Your other partner is going to see to it. That's just a fact of life. It's going to happen like that. And when it happens, you need to make a real careful decision on whether you're going to be entering the marketplace on that day or not. I'm going to humbly submit to you that you probably should take the day off. I don't care how good the chart looks. If you're in a situation that you feel a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, or if you're just pent up hostility, like I have that. I feel a lot better now that I've talked about it because it's different. It's different talking to someone outside of my wife, who is my partner. She's, part of this corporation that's our marriage. Okay. We have a relationship that we have to build each other up and strengthen each other and be there for each other. And we have had a division in our relationship since this started because I'm doing everything I can to acquire this property for her. And she is trying to do everything she can not to pester me about every little thing she's feeling every single day. So imagine that. Like it's very hard to manage all these things. And you're going to have that same problem. It's going to creep in. And when you have that instance where you're out of sorts, okay, you're not dialed in because you have something going on. It may be something as, like you have a child and they're sick or they're getting in trouble. Maybe they're entering a troublesome time in their development as a child and they're trying to find themselves. That's stressful, and maybe you're going through an illness. Maybe you discovered something about yourself and your health that is now scary. I've often thought about, all of you and what types of circumstances that would creep into your life. And there's a whole slew of things that could come up. And what might not be a big deal to you may be something earth shattering to someone else. But if you're on that precipice where all it takes is a small little nudge by some, and you're not going to be able to contain your emotions, it's happening. And because I know there's closure, I'm able to, I guess, talk to you all, I guess, the way I'm doing it now. And maybe it's not interesting to you. I really don't care. These types of things are very therapeutic for me. And maybe it's something that's helpful to some of you. Maybe you get something out of this. Maybe you feel like you can connect with me as your mentor better because you maybe experience these types of things. Maybe not to the degree like I explain. Maybe it's a little bit less in terms of intensity, but all of us are human. We're all going to have these problems. We're all going to have these issues that creep in. And you're going to have to make a decision. Do you really want to bring yourself misery if you do it wrong? See, you're not going to see it like that at the time. And it's going to take a great deal of self-control to say no. You're not going to be able to do it many times. You're going to just fall victim to yourself. You're going to go in there, start clicking buttons and pushing buttons. And the worst thing that can happen is, well, I guess now it just dawned on me. That guy Corbs is over there across the pond. Okay, he's globetrotting, bouncing around over there, and I don't know where he's at, to be honest with you. But where he's at, his internet service sucks. But I think what he's feeling is there is a disconnect between him and his audience. And because he's working very hard to try to grow his channel and his community, I think that he feels that separation anxiety, knowing that, he's used to having that live interaction. That continuity's now been disrupted for reasons outside of his control. Now, put yourself in his shoes for a moment, okay, and understand and think about what he's been very honest about in the last two videos. He says, I'm having a hard time doing this and having a hard time doing that. And I know I should be taking something in these trades when I'm down, but I won't. So what I think he's doing is he's trying to feel good about something else he's able to conquer. So he wants to be able to find a connection to do his live streams. But because he's being prevented, the male in him, the caveman, well, it's a deer right by my truck. I'm in a parking lot at the hospital right up the street from where my home is. And there is a big old doe. And I'm not a hunter, guys, but she's literally walking right next to the truck. Wow. Look at you, girl. Mm. I'm wondering if I could take a picture while we're still talking here. Hold on one second. He wants to do it, but he can't. It's outside of his control. It's outside of his hands. But the man in him, the caveman, is saying to himself, let's go out there with our club and bonk the market over the head and take a victory and feel good about that. Because I can't do live streams. I'm going to go out there and feel good because I've conquered the market, and I'll compensate for myself that way. That's what I personally believe he's experiencing. And if he's listening, it'd be interesting for him to either say, no, that's not happening, ICT, or if it is, like, yeah, that's it. Or maybe he didn't know. Now he's, able to think about it like this. But I'm quite certain if I was in his situation, those are the very things I'd be trying to do. Because I can't make that man take that list pendants off. He had to be paid for or had to be bought out by the seller to do that. That was the whole reason why I did it. Nothing was going to tell him to take it off until he got to court and then lose and then pay damages. And he wasn't going to do that either. But he knew us waiting as long as it may take to get to that point. That we're going to make a move before that. $2 million in property in a high of the market like it is. The seller's going to make a move, and he did. So Corbs is probably doing very much like what I'm outlining here. He's doing things impulsively, and then that takes him out of his focus. Instead of saying, this is what I do, this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is the methodology I should be following, he even reported that in his discussion about himself. He knew in the trades, I should be doing this, but he won't do it. Why? Because he is being denied something that he wants to do with his community. He wants to be able to do something that he's been doing daily ish, as he says, except for Fridays, but he can't do it. Not because he can't do it. He can't do it because he's being denied from an outside source, which is the internet provider where he's at. So that sense of what? Frustration, that denial of something that would be reasonable to expect, and something he's used to doing, he can't do it. So what is it doing? It's taking him out of his mental focus, his rule-based idea of what he should be doing, how to keep himself disciplined, and what it is that he should be doing when he's in a trade. That's what I find fascinating about him, because he's like a test tube for everybody to see. And it's beneficial for you. Who cares if he doesn't trade like us? That's not the point. Have I ever looked at him and said, look what he's doing wrong there? I haven't done that, and I don't want to do that. I have no intentions of doing that. I'm not trying to press on him to learn to be like us. And I saw some of you commenting, learn from ICT. Don't do that, please. You're going to embarrass me. That's not what I'm doing. Okay. I believe he is a great resource for studying the psychology of a trader. It matters not to me if he makes money or not. The fact that he's willing to spend the time that he does, and then expressing his experiences, he's not holding it back. And I think that is a breath of fresh air for people that are learning how to do this. If you watch and listen to what he's saying, you're going to resonate with that, especially if you're trading before you're supposed to. Okay. I think that you will resonate with what he explains that he feels as a mental barrier, and some of the things that he feels good about what he does, but mostly the struggles of finding yourself, especially in this type of volatility, because the volatility will make you fall in love with the potential of making a lot of money. And they're thinking, man, and I fell victim to it almost today. ICT almost got wrapped up in some love triangle shit. Okay. Michael, Missy, and the S&P. And I got news for you guys. My wife ain't sharing our relationship. Okay. There's no menage a trois with my wife. Okay. It's not going to happen. But that type of thing where men get wrapped up with their routine, if they get taken out of it, it takes us completely off our focus. And I think that's really what's going on with Corbs. And maybe that makes sense to you now. Maybe it makes sense to what happens in your own trading, in your own analysis. How do you feel when your normal routine is disrupted? Okay. Do you have unexpected guests? Okay. I have a student that, opened their home up to a in-law. Okay. And he admittedly did not want them staying with them, but trying to be the good spouse, trying to be the one that, I guess, tries to do whatever to keep peace in the house, said, okay, they can stay here. And it's caused a nightmare for his routine as a husband, a father, an employee at the place where he works, and then come home and he's got to learn how to trade, and then he has to find time to trade. And this individual in the house, they're leaving things out when normally that doesn't go on in their house. These types of things is completely taking him out of focus. And he goes, does this sound like I'm being overbearing or frivolous? I was like, no. First of all, I wouldn't let anybody live with me. Okay. Number two, yes, I would be out of my mind. Like, I'm a person, everything has to have its own place. And if it's out of place, I'm going to know. And if it's disruptive, you need to sit down and say, hey, look, this is the way I need you to conduct yourself here. Because not only is it disruptive to me in my thought process, but once I'm out of whack, okay, and I'm not able to focus and I'm risking money, and I can't have you messing with my fucking money. Okay, that's just the way you got to say it. And get your permission from me that you can say the F word. But, you got to find your own solutions, and you got to find your own rhyme and reason as to, how you find continuity in your own life. Because if you don't have continuity, if you don't have the means of adjusting and adapting to what's going on, it's going to take you out of your focus. And you'll have these same types of things that Corbs has been talking about in his last two videos. And I think that's such a great teaching tool. It's such a great, foundation to trader psychology, because That's rarely tapped into. Rarely is that ever really brought up as a means of undoing oneself in the marketplace. Because I had done that to myself when I was in my 20s. I did not understand the impact of something as simple as I'm not able to do what I'm supposed to do normally. So what am I going to do? I'm going to look for a feel good victory. I want a Rocky moment. Well, if you remember in Rocky 1, uh, Apollo fucked him up. He didn't win. He got fucked up. So yeah, he survived, but he didn't get no championship. He got his ass whooped. So just remember, that's what it's going to most likely feel like. You're going to get in and you might do a good job of slugging it out, but you're going home fucked up. So you got to stay focused. You got to stay focused, understand why you're doing it, and don't get taken out of focus. And if it's your routine, it's all out of whack, something's bringing, inconsistency and disrupting your continuity in your everyday life, that right there is a warning sign. Do not go in if you feel like you want to get, revenge, or you want to feel good moment. You want to feel like an attaboy or attagal, like you did something great. Don't look to the market for that feel good moment. Don't ever look to the market like that. Now, if you do something and you feel good, there's nothing wrong about that. But don't use that as your inspiration for going in and trading. Because if you do that, what's going to happen is, and I'm closing on this point, you're going to trade more times than you're supposed to or should. You're going to use more leverage, and chances are you're not going to use a stop loss effectively or at all, because you're going in with a one-sided perspective that it's only going to work out in your favor, because you need it to, psychologically and emotionally. You need that victory, and you cannot envision anything but that. Now, what did you just do? You created the invitation, VIP invitation, to that brokerage firm, sending your ass home with a blown account, because that's exactly what that recipe brings you in stunning fashion. I've done that when I was 20 years old. Everything, everything that I did in those instances resulted in a losing trade, and it would be a bigger trade with more leverage and no stop loss. And then soybeans closed me out. That was it. Wrapped up. Run up and done up. And that's what's going to happen to any of you if you don't listen, because you're not thinking clearly and you're doing all the wrong things. But it's not going to feel like that, because in your mind, all I need is this feel good moment. No, 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 no. Stop. Stop that. It's bullshit. You know, you're bullshitting yourself. Nobody's there to tell you this. I'm telling you right now, you're full of shit, because if you get away with it, then you're going to do it again. And then what's going to happen is going to burn your ass at a later time. So the worst thing that can happen is if you win. If you make money in that instance, that's the worst toxic thing you could have done to yourself, because you'll make that mistake again. And you don't want to make that mistake. So I'm telling you, don't look at the market like that. Don't come home pissed off because your boss maybe leaned on you, okay, or denied a vacation, or gave a promotion to somebody else, and you've been working hard and you deserve it, okay, or you just don't like where you're at. You're pissed off. You came home in traffic. Somebody, you know, bumped in your car. You had an accident or something. Now you need to do what? You need to feel rewarded for putting up with all the bullshit of everyday life. And you're going to treat the market like the lottery, because you deserve the win today. Well, you don't deserve the win. Nobody deserves the win. You earn that. Okay. There's no deserving shit. Okay. You earn it, but you cannot earn it consistently if you're doing dumb shit. And dumb shit's going to be a result of you going in looking for a feel good moment while your personal life is in disarray. And it may not even be that big of a deal, but in our minds, you know, your spouse did something stupid. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is one thing that's going to be looked at by you all like, really? That's a big fucking deal, this guy? I have a lot of books, and my books sometimes if I'm reading them, I'll place them down and I'll walk away from them, and they have to be exactly how I left them. If someone's moved them, my mind's going to be thinking, okay, they opened them up and the page I have with a marker on them is then been moved. Because my youngest son, he's a touchy feely kind of guy. He's wanting to touch everything, move things around, look at shit, and I love him to death, but I can't, my mind won't let me do that. So that one little thing, if that happens before I get into the PM session, because I homeschool, that's going to be in my mind. Like, shit, he moved my placeholder. Now I got to go through and find, like, that's all it takes for me. That's all it takes for me. How can I implement what I know? What's the algorithm going to do next? And I have no correlation to why a reason for feeling good about what's happened. That's when the market's moving, that's going to completely take me out of focus. And that's one of the things that was very hard for a lot of my students when I was doing the first year mentorship and I was trying to sit down with them at Price and I was outlining what it's going to be like for them to sit in front of Price and what they're going to be feeling, what this looks like, and kind of like pantomiming the student sitting down in front of charts and this is what you should expect, this is what you're going to be feeling. But then I got 865 people asking me, what about this? And why'd you let this happen? You versus watching Price. And it was a nightmare. I will never open myself up to that again because it's just, I can't focus. I cannot focus. Contrast that with what you see me doing with a live account. You can see my entries. You can see how I'm managing the position. Like clearly these things work. I know how to trade, but I cannot trade if I have someone in my ear constantly, hey, what about this? And what about that? Why didn't you do this? Can this be looked at? Can you trade this? What about gold? I'm looking at the S&P or I'm looking at, Forex. And these folks come up to me all the time. Hey, what about gold? Or what about dollar yen? Man, don't talk to me about the fucking yen. I don't want to hear about yen. I can't fucking stand yen. Okay. It's so heavily manipulated. I don't like it. I can't stand it. So you're going to find all these little things in your development that set you off. These little quirky ass shit that just takes you completely out of your focus. And you'll probably have those experiences that Corbs is explaining in his dialogues, saying that, hey, look, this is the way it is. I'm having a struggle with this. And the best thing you can do is be honest like him. Be honest with yourself. And I want to ask him, in his comments probably tonight before I go to bed. I'll go to his channel and post a comment on this most recent one and ask him if he journals. I don't